My name's John Hodges, and I was one of the first conscripts to go to Vietnam in 1960s. I was conscripted in 65, and through basic training, etc., we went to Vietnam May 66 and come home in 67. Being the first conscript, it was quite a different way of joining the army compared to the enlisted men, and it was very funny in the fact you're trying to get builders and bakers and candlestick makers all together to try and meld them into, let's say, a fighting group.
My name's Andy Marshall. I enlisted in the regular army in 1963. My first tour of duty was in Malaya for 2.5 years, 64 to 66. I arrived home from Malaysia, and then 12 months later I was on the vessel going to Vietnam as a medical assistant with 3 Battalion for their tour of duty.
Yeah, my name's John Willis. I joined the army in 1966. I was a national serviceman. I went to a fellow's funeral that got killed in Vietnam. His name was Terry Renshaw, and Terry Renshaw come from Wangaratta. Anyway, we had to, as he was part of our unit prior to going to Vietnam, we had to do a reverse arms and all that stuff and present his funeral for him in Wangaratta. Anyway, not long after that, about 2 weeks after that, I was told that I was taking his place in Vietnam.
One of the very early sad things here that we come across was the first national serviceman to be killed in Vietnam was Errol Noack, and we knew Errol very, very well. So it was the first night of our first operation here that we actually got our first casualty, being Errol Noack. To be quite truthful, it frightened me. All of a sudden, it made me realise that, John, you're at war. Like, you're not at home playing hide and seek and pretending to go bang. It's war, you know. And it happened at dusk, and of course that night everyone was pretty jittery here. We didn't know what to expect, you know.
I was supposed to do a Commonwealth Field Ambulance, which is a mainly British unit with a section of Australians to make up a section there. During that time we spent 6 weeks up on the Malay-Thai border doing border patrols, and that's, once again, I was attached to 3 Battalion, which is by some such strange coincidence with D Company, and that's who I served with in Vietnam. We came back, and a NATO operation was in Thailand at the time, in the northeast Thailand, building an airstrip for the Thai Air Force, which apparently was never used, but in case they were involved or they needed that airstrip for Vietnam. And we spent 3 months up there looking after the engineers and looking after the local villages as well, which was a terrific time.
My father was a real unionist and a Labor man who didn't believe in the war, a Jim Cairns man, if I should say, and he was very anti-Vietnam. So he said to me, he said, look, he said, I can get you out of this. He said, I said, what do I want to get out of it for? I said, I'm going to enjoy the adventure, you know. So I had to change my life anyway, because I was drinking too much and knocking around with a lot of mates of mine that were very undesirable, and so it straightened me up, as a matter of fact. In my letters, you know, my mum used to write to me and tell me all the details, you know. My other brother was arrested for demonstrating in the streets of Melbourne, so against the Vietnam War. She told me all about that.
But obviously after I came home, a year or two after that, the amount of protesting and that with Jim Cairns, as Johnny just said, with Jim Cairns, it was new, and I didn't like it, because I thought, you've got a country you live in, you love your country, you honour your country, and why can't you put your hand up?
We were out in the scrub for about 3 weeks with one battalion. We had a couple of contacts, you know, around the way, and did a lot of ambushing and stuff like that. We were tired, we were starving, sick of the food, you know, eating rations all the time. rations. We had Australian rations packed in 1943.
That's true.
And we had biscuits that were packed in wax. People used to dunk them in their tea, and watch all the wax just fall off, and then they'd eat the biscuits.
Welcome to the army.
But the American rations were quite good actually. But you got sick of all of them, you know, in the end.
We couldn't believe that singers and bands and stuff were coming over for Australia because I reiterate again, you know, being the first battalion into Fukui province, we had a lot to do patrolling and also building the camp up at the same time. And when we heard of Little Patty, of course she was something else, and we all went there and cheered and whatever. And as a matter of fact, Coljaw was at the same time, and we kidnapped Coljaw and we brought him back to our lines. And he really didn't know what to expect, because each night, there was artillery fire to selected positions that VC could have been at. And I think he was pretty happy to get back to battalion headquarters.
Let's face it, the majority of people, you're not used to killing people or wounding people. And of course it affects people in different ways. And you see that and you get people just to talk about it. And it makes a big difference if you can sort of get these guys just to sit down, have a coffee, and just talk about anything they like, just to make them feel relaxed and feel better about themselves as well.